brothers who are remembered before God and to pay homage to this tomb, so the community is missed in Jericho. While therefore we abode in Jericho and gave ourselves to prayer and fasting, James the bishop sent for me and sent me here to Caesarea, saying that Zacchaeus had written to him from Caesarea that Simon, a Samaritan magician, was subverting many of the people, and that he was, and so on and so forth. So at that point, he goes out. I guess this is, and then James gives him instructions. Now be sure to send me in writing every year an account of your doings, and especially at the end of every 7 years. And that's why this is a 7-yearly report. And he goes out, and when I entered the city, our most beloved brother met us, that is in Caesarea, and embraced me and brought me to the lodging in which he himself stayed, inquiring of me concerning each of the brethren, and especially concerning our honorable brother James. When I told him he was still lame on one foot, limping on one foot, he immediately asked the cause and so on and so forth. And he tells them that it was because of the attack on the temple. And in other documents we hear that James was thrown from the steps of the temple and broke one or both his legs. That's in Jerome. What am I saying? The detail here is quite astonishing. Quite astonishing. The guy even knows that James has a broken leg. He knows that he's limping on one foot, how many weeks later? 6 weeks later, or whatever it is. And what happened? I guess this is Peter being sent to Caesarea. The point is that this is the first missionary journey that Peter is sent out on to confront Simon Magus. And Acts has a similar thing, but Acts has Peter going to Samaria. The point is that Simon Magus, as we find out, came from Samaria, but the confrontation is in Caesarea on the coastline, not in Samaria. So these are differences. What I'm pointing out is that these are other books that we don't usually know about. Now that doesn't mean they have the stamp of truth, authenticity. They're all novel type books, if you want to call them that. But it's interesting data. So we have a situation set up here that the person we all consider the main apostle is considered by these people the enemy of God, and that they're led by this righteous one, James, the brother of the Lord. And that is backed up to in some of the material we get, and in the anger we see in the Pauline corpus. So I just happen to be working on this stuff at the moment, and I wanted to give you that background for whatever it is worth. Last questions before we pick up again. I don't know why I got sidetracked, but I had those books with me, so I thought I would tell you about them. I won't have to cover them again now that I have read them. Anyone else have any?
What was the book called that you were just reading?
Oh, that one? The Recognitions of Clement, often called the Pseudo-Clementine. Usually there are two versions. The Recognitions, which has this material in it, and the Homilies, which doesn't. The Homilies looks like this has been deleted from it. Most of the rest of the Homilies has James the leader also. James and Peter are both daily bathers who rise at dawn to meet the sun in the Dead Sea, Essene manner, who bathe every day at dawn, who only eat pure foods, who are vegetarians, and so on. And otherwise the homily is exactly the same as the Recognition. Plus the homilies has a letter from Peter to James and a letter from Clement to James at the beginning, and it also has a letter from James to I think Clement at the beginning. Yeah.
When were these documents written?
They were already circulating in the 2nd century somehow. That's all we know. That's all we know. But my position is, and I write about them extensively, is that they are both based on the same source as Acts. In other words, Acts and these are based on the same source. The only question is, who do you think is more faithful to the original source? And the way you can determine this is things like, did the confrontations with Simon Magus occur in Samaria? And was it over some bribery issue? And was there a stoning Stephen at this point, whoever Stephen may or may not have been? Or was there some argument in the early church, as Acts puts it there? Or does one actually have a substitution or override, if you want, for this episode that we have here, the attack on James, not Stephen, who was ultimately stoned like Stephen, as it turns out, but not for another 20 years. So you have a condensation of 2 attacks of James into this one Stephen episode here. And otherwise you can see that it's very similar. But anyway, that's as a different course. That's Christian Origins course. We don't teach that here in this particular class. But these are some of the documents available, which is why I want to show you that there are these serious arguments in the first couple of centuries over what did and didn't happen. And the Western Christian groups, who finally became what we call Christianity that we're familiar with, compiled the documents that we now have. But the Eastern, not the Eastern churches, which were just part of the Western church at this time, but the Eastern groups that disappeared in Syria, Iraq, Arabia, went into this funny book I have here that I showed you, that one with all the funny documents, Baptists in Iraq that still exist, went into what was called Manichaeism in the 2nd century, who saw himself as the seal of the prophets and messenger to the Babylonian people and so on. Finally, Islam and different religions like that. So that these were absorbed, but the apocryphal literature stayed on. And then we have the Dead Sea Scrolls to throw into the whole mix. So when you have this whole mix of stuff, you can start to decide in Palestine, Jordan, let's say, Palestine and Transjordan area, what was actually happening there. And then we'll go to the Gospels and start looking at those and see what their view of what was actually happening there is. Okay, any other questions? Sorry to waste your time here. We'll get more organized and we'll get more focused as we develop. So enjoy your sort of vacation now. Later on we'll get more direction. Thanks for your patience.
Was it that James is drawn in the sense by whom again?
By Paul.